Oral questions. Questions orales. L'honorable.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition. Mr. Speaker, who could be against the following motion that given that for 9 years the government has doubled housing costs, taxed food, punished work, unleashed crime, and is the most centralizing government in Canadian history, the House has lost confidence in the government and offers Canadians the option to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. The Honourable Minister of Public Services and Procurement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Conservative leader has a major problem. He claims to be the greatest expert in the world on monetary policy, but he didn't even read the beginning of the first chapter of Economics 101, which says that the basic rule to avoid inflation and to have the central bank reduce inflation is to not interfere with the central bank. When is he going to apologize for being both an expert and the most incompetent of all the monetarists in the world?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, at least someone over there thinks about monetary policy. Mr. Speaker, who could be against the following motion? That, given that, after 9 years, the government has doubled housing costs, taxed food, punished work, unleashed crime, and is the most centralizing government in Canadian history, the House has lost confidence in the government and offers Canadians the option to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime.
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There's a very simple answer to his question as to who's opposed to that motion. Canadians.
Months ago, I asked the government who could be against a motion pointing out that this government's doubled housing costs, taxed food, punished work, and unleashed crime to give Canadians the chance to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. And she said, Canadians are against all of those things. If that's the case, then why won't she let them decide in a carbon tax election now?
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's a little sad that the Leader of the Opposition, having just lost a vote of non-confidence in the government yesterday, is putting forward the exact same motion today. I think it shows his desperation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
No, in fact, the motion specifically demonstrates that this government, this NDP Liberal government, has doubled housing costs. I found it interesting that the NDP has now discovered that they doubled housing costs. A second ago, a Montreal MP stood up to point to a young woman, Pascal, who can no longer afford to rent, much less to own, after housing costs have tripled in that city. When I was housing minister, rent was $700 in Montreal, and we built almost 200,000 units. Mr. Speaker, why can't the NDP put their actions where their words are and vote for a carbon tax?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
These slogans are clever, but they are empty, Mr. Speaker. It's empty rhetoric on the other side as always. In fact, he should take a look at the CMHC's report from today that puts a spotlight on Montreal, 106% increase in rental construction. Why is that, Mr. Speaker? Because GST has been waived by this government to ensure greater supply, to incent builders during a difficult time. He has no idea how to incent that sector. He's good at running around the country and insulting mayors, putting a spotlight on the homeless, but coming up with no ideas on that. It's more right-wing populism. They have nothing to say, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
In a carbon tax election, if that's true.
Unfortunately, the Bloc Québécois is telling Quebecers, wait. If you can't pay your bills, just wait. If you can't buy a home, after 9 years of this Prime Minister, just hang on. If you're afraid of going out on the street because of crime that the Bloc Liberals have unleashed in our streets, in Quebec, a province that is at a breaking point because of immigration. They're just saying, hang on. Quebecers don't need to wait. They don't need to wait, Mr. Speaker. They need to choose a new government based on good common sense.
Then I have this.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, the priority of our government is to deliver for all Quebecers and all Canadians, Mr. Speaker. That includes daycare spaces, a dental care program, historic housing investments, Mr. Speaker. In the meantime, what are the Conservatives concentrated on? Well, as we saw in the Journal de Montréal this week, Conservative MPs are being paid to go to Florida to sermonize on the importance of banning abortion and teaching creationism. You can't invent that, Mr. Speaker. They should be ashamed.